use those to try and marry science up with manufacturing. And there's certainly funding available for those people to, for regions to interact with these hubs, and I suppose Auckland would be our closest one. Fran O'Sullivan was one of the speakers, and she said she had this phrase that she coined of grumpy growth, and there was a number of speakers that talked about grumpy growth and how do we manage the businesses in our region struggling to get confidence in the recession. And then I think I was really disappointed in the calibre of speaker. I thought for 589 delegates they could have had some really top-class speakers. But John Brumby, I felt, was a very good speaker, the guy who had been the governor of the Victoria, the state of Victoria. And so he talked about the China economy doubling every 10 years, and he talked about the technological revolution. So it was more the macro kind of thing. China being the largest exporter of solar panels at 75, this is just sort of figures, but I don't know if you're interested in it, but it was quite mind-blowing really. 75% of all air traffic flies into China. 50 billion internet devices worldwide, that was an aside. They spend $110 billion per annum on R&D, US dollars. And by 2020, China will be the world's largest creditor, the world's largest trading nation, and the world's largest economy. So, I mean, we sort of know these things, but every now and then it pays to think, well, how will that affect us moving forward as a region, especially when we look at forging relationships. And then there was another thing that they said was a major issue of the Western world was epidemiological, and it was facing every community, and it was all around the fact that we're living longer and the related health costs. So every region will have to think about heart disease and diabetes. And then he also said that New Zealand has brilliant scientists doing groundbreaking work, and there was a whole raft of other information there. But one of the things I really liked was the fact that he said that Australia's been decentralising their government, which is the opposite to what our government's doing with local government, and they're putting up government departments in local regions with high value jobs, and they're also he talked about Bendigo and the Grace Kelly exhibition, but if anyone's interested I can tell them, because I thought that could be something we could really look at for our museum. Then there was various conversations. One was around the difficulties of rating Maori land, and the CEO of the Far North has worked with the Auditor General's office to find what he called a satisfactory solution. And I thought 2/3 of our ratepayers are, it's Maori land, so we could perhaps talk to the CEO of the Far North and find out whether that is something that we could put in place for here. I think we can leave all that. There was one thing that a number of the councils have got iPads, and they were saying that's a huge cost saving because of when you think about the long-term plan and all the paper we had. Could we, as councillors, maybe looking up to the next annual plan, look at iPads, because certainly the mountain of paper and the ease of editing documents, changing documents, I don't know, I'll put that out there for the CEO and see what he thinks.
Working on it for 5 years. This is the trial one.
Oh, really? Oh, congratulations. There was just for your information, papers were full while we're down there of Queenstown building a $43 million conference centre to house 750 delegates. I'll just read through all that. There was Phil O'Reilly from Business New Zealand talked at length about the Green Growth Advisory Group, and he was urging councils to take an active role in promoting renewable clean energy solutions. Then I attended the workshop on the Maori role in LG. I'll just leave that for you to read. And so really the biggest thing was the local government reform, and John Key really said at this conference how he wanted to work in partnership with local government, and how he wanted to collaborate and how he wanted to have a seamless meeting of local and central government. And then 1 week later, I attended the National Party National Conference in Auckland, and it was all top down. It was a totally different song sheet, and I was quite alarmed by that. As Mike alluded to, the four well-beings, there was a unanimous vote at the local government AGM from 589 delegates put their hand in the air. I didn't see one down, did you? Voted in favour of leaving the four well-beings in place.
And that's why they've asked all councils not only just put in a submission, but actually front up and present it, all the councils. So that was unanimity as well.
So there was, it was all sort of top down. Russell Norman spoke and opposed the poll system. Annette King thinks that the national government's manufactured the local government crisis by cherry picking a handful of extreme examples of blowouts and sending a message out to the general public that these blowouts are mainstream. I'll leave the rest for you to read. And there's a whole lot of problems that came out of the Super City Forum, which I attended, and that was mind-blowing. And basically the biggest point was that while the Super City was appropriate for Auckland to become a truly metropolitan, international, Asia-Pacific city, Auckland's vastly different animal from the rest of New Zealand, and not the Super City or the larger amalgamations aren't appropriate for the rest of New Zealand, and it's not going to be a good fit. It's going to take at least 6 to 10 years to bed down, and there's not necessarily cost savings at all. In fact, it's the reverse. There's a nightmare with regards to marrying up technology and systems, but in time it will be right. There's one councillor that said that they weren't at all involved, and they've now become a board rather than being a council. There's 27 of them. There's 21 boards from the 21 old councils, and there's 21 different ways of doing things. And he said that they have no input whatsoever into the with governance into the infrastructure projects. And the first thing they hear about them is when the contractors arrive on the ground. They're not actually being asked to have any input as a community. So there were some really worrying things. And then there was Mayor Jenny Rowan from Kapiti. She spoke of the need to celebrate local government successes, of which there are many and varying, convey the value of local government and their power. For instance, she said that local government represent 4.5 million electricity users, and we should be working together to drive electricity prices down. And there was all sorts of things that the government should be looking at as where cost efficiencies could be made rather than beating us over the head. So there's a whole lot of review, and we've covered a lot of those in our review process, but some of them were, I thought, really concerning. And then we heard from Jonathan Salter, who's a partner of Simpson Grierson, and he says that the cost of community wellbeings is minor. It's the infrastructure costs that are causing the big blowouts. He thinks the wording of the proposed bill is ridiculous and open to legal challenge. Those were his exact words. He's concerned about government intervention and how many more Jerry Brownleys do we need. Significant restraints on regions for self-determination and rights of communities to choose is under attack. And he says that there's a lack of analysis in the bill, lack of understanding, and it's reality TV legislation. And Nick Smith, this is at the National Party conference, he was very much at the arm of David Carter, and it was made clear that while he wasn't in the role, he was having a lot of active input. Just for interest, after we heard from Louise Upston, I think she voted publicly, so I'll pass on to you that she voted in favour, as our MP, she voted in favour of a remit put by Hamilton East that the New Zealand National Party adopt a policy that the power of general competence be taken from local government. And that remit was not passed, needless to say, but she voted for it. So then there was the time frame of the bill being passed, phase 2, the efficiency task force reporting back to David Carter next year by March, and the need for then local governments to do some fairly significant public relations to get the public informed. The streamlining of, and this was another thing with the National Party. John Key made it clear that he intended to streamline the 78 councils, and if they weren't prepared to marry up, as he said, the South Waikato, the 3 councils down there had been working together. They were all very keen to join forces, but if local government wasn't going to be proactive, then central government would be imposing amalgamations. And I think there was rural people spoke up that they would not get value for their financial vote with the Hamilton